Testing 1 2, audio check. There we go. Just having a little microphone fun this evening. Never a dull moment. Good evening, adventurers. Okay, well, let me get Hexographer over in here because it's being stubborn this evening, so that we can at least have some map up for some discussion. And add that to our foray. And I am not seeing... Oh, cute. I love when Streamlabs wants to be Streamlabs. Alright, so we may not be doing this with a map tonight. Okay, fine. I can tweak our Chrome layout to be a little bit bigger then. And we will wing it, just so that we're here and getting this further along. Okay. That makes it a little bit bigger. That's a shame that Hexographer and Streamlabs do not like each other in terms of two applications on the same computer. I'm going to try one more time. Oh, I see Chrome and that's it. Okay. Well, then we will hide the game screen. Or, better yet, let's go ahead and bring up Fantasy Grounds. Happy Valentine's Day. For those of you who have not paid attention to the calendar. This will be probably a fairly short episode this evening, since it is Valentine's Day. I got started a little late. But okay, so we can get Fantasy Grounds to play nice, but we cannot get Hexographer to play nice. It is what it is. Okay, so let's talk Session 8 of Trevino's 30 Days of World Building, which predominantly deals with food sources. I predict this will go fairly fast because a lot of it's just going to be very generic and boilerplate for now. It is what it is, right? So, for foods, let's break this into sci-fi and fantasy. Let's see. Okay, so that makes that changed. And then we're going to copy it and do the sci-fi world one, because I like to do these at the same time. Also, I think because food and farmed animals kind of go together, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the Session 9 content as well this evening. And then that way we'll save the next Wednesday's broadcast for Predators. Because I think that's going to be where I want to spend a lot of time, especially in my sci-fi world. I think that's going to be an important section. Alright, so food in a fantasy world. Okay. Your typical plant-based foods are going to be wheat, corn, other grains, common meat sources, cattle, goat, sheep, pig, locally grown foods. I mean, come on. Since we're not focusing on one specific area, this is more of a world build and not a regional build. This is going to vary based on geographic location. Imported foods. Storage and cooking. I mean, It's a medieval setting. How do you keep food fresh in medieval settings? You typically pickle it or salt it to death. Pickled, salt, and then in limited, if you're wealthy enough, there's going to be somebody that's going to be selling frozen ice. Okay, cooking. I mean, everything's going to come down to fire, isn't it? Unless you want to resort to some weird magic or alchemy. So, I don't think we're going to delve into the cooking discussion. Costs going to be very based on transportation. Cost of transportation. This is true everywhere, isn't it? Even in real life. Traditions and customs. So, holiday feasts. Religious ceremonies. You know, we have, in our society, we have traditional feasts for Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthdays and, you know, all kinds of different religious ceremonies are celebrated with food. So I think as we flesh out the world, this will be something that'll get revisited, because maybe there will be certain dishes that are festival related that maybe get served once a year. And this also is going to vary based on geographic location. So frozen and ice, that could be either actual or magical created ice. I mean, we have a set of polar caps. If you can find a way to keep ice cold. So, wheat, corn, other grains, cattle, goat, sheep, pig, locally grown foods. Obviously, we need to add fruits and vegetables up here. I am a carnivore more than I am an omnivore, so I have to remember to add these to my diet, so I have to remember to add these to my world. Other notes. We'll revisit that. Okay. So I mean, there's a whole lot of generic placeholder stuff here, and I can almost copy these verbatim between sci-fi and fantasy. Again, your grain-based foods, your fruits, your vegetables, your cattle, goat, sheep, pig. You know, it raises an interesting conversation of what all do we farm for food. You know, we didn't even put fish on here. Obviously, you got a lot of water available, so fish is going to be a source of meat. And for the daring, you know, you can always cook a troll. I don't think I would eat it. Thank you very much. Pass. Hard pass. Okay. Although that needs to be on both worlds. Okay. And closing tabs, I don't mean to. So that comes back to the conversation of session 9, farmed animals. Okay. This is going to be stolen straight from here. With the exception of maybe fish farming. Although we could probably make that a thing. Food. Okay. Landscape enclosure requirements. I mean, treatment and attitudes towards it. It's food. Varies. Okay, farmed animals. You know, we can raise You know, and this comes back to the conversation of other animals. Rabbit. Yeah, this is not the exciting part of being a DM. Animals that we could raise for protection. Dogs. And this could be pet or protection. Probably before we list dogs, I want to say horses. That's going to be transportation predominantly. Or pet. Now let's list dogs. This can be predominantly a pet or protection. You know, your attitude toward it's going to vary as to whether your dog is for protection or if it's a pet. Same thing for horses. We're going to say it varies based on role. Because police dogs typically get treated differently in their role as a protective animal than they do as a pet. Although, you know, those handlers, they take those home, they bond with those dogs, so it's a pet in a sense, but it is also, you know, a protector. Okay. See, this gets kind of tacky. I'm not going to go into cats, rabbits, gerbils, hamsters, all that crazy stuff for farmed animals. I want to say we could probably just use the same template for both environments. And I can do away with a document. All about working smarter, not harder. So why not? Let's refresh this page inside of Google. And then zap this one. Okay, that makes life easier. I think the same thing for farmed animals. I don't think there's a need to get crazy about this. So your food sources, your farmed animals, it's going to be pretty much consistent. Now, in our sci-fi setting, we do have some kelp farms, and I haven't determined what the purpose of those kelp farms are going to be used for. Are they going to be used for textiles? Are they going to be used for food? Are they going to be used for medicine? Are they going to be used for all three? You know, there's definitely some areas there where I can experiment, and I think that'll be fleshed out a little more as we develop. And then next session, I think predators are going to come into play. You know, in terms of what kind of creatures and where do they live, and, you know, how do people protect themselves from it. So I think those will be a little more thought out as we process. All right, what other food sources can you think of that might be a good thing to look at? You know, you're going to have other items that are not being treated for food. And there's going to be parts of these that aren't being used for food. I mean, obviously, you've got cow. You're going to use the hide for leather. So there's other items that can be derived from these same sources, other than it's something to eat. And that's going to be true for goat and sheep, you know, rabbit. You can use the fur. You know, fish, I mean, you're pretty much going to eat it. I don't know what else you're going to do with it. Grind it up for fertilizer? I don't know. You know, we might get into a conversation of exotic farmed animals. You know, my adventurers are playing the Tomb of Annihilation right now, and you have inside the city of Port Nyanzar, Naransu. Oh, I can't even pronounce it tonight. They have a set of dinosaur pens because dinosaurs are used kind of like herd animals for pulling carts and whatnot. They also have dinosaur races, so something to think about there. I hadn't given any thought to dinosaurs in my setting. I think we're going to keep them out. Um, Obviously in the sci-fi setting for sure, but in the fantasy setting, yeah, I don't think I'm going to add dinosaurs into my environment. So, all right. Imported foods. We've already noted costs vary based on cost and method of transportation. You know. Holiday feasts, religious ceremonies. What other celebrations can we lump into there? So I'm going to go midsummer, midwinter. Religious ceremony is going to depend when we start getting into deities and pantheons, especially in a sci-fi, or not a sci-fi, in a fantasy setting. That's going to mix that up quite a bit. Farmed animals. We're going to list fowl. So this is going to be your chicken, duck, geese. This could be, it's predominantly going to be a food source or pet. And does that need to come back over here? Yes, it does. Chicken, duck, geese. Obviously eggs. We get into that conversation of whether an egg is a meat or not. It's very high in protein, so I do not want to have a debate on that whole subject and thought process. Oh, let me get my mouse to move. Give me just a second. I mean, you got beekeepers. So we've covered sheep, goats, cows, chickens, pigs, rabbits, horses. I guess we could lump turkey in with fowls. So I'm not going to list everything out there. Oh, we could get into ox. We'll treat that as cattle. We're going to lump that under the cattle category. Same thing as llamas. Llamas and oxen are going to get lumped under cattle. Bison, moose. We've already covered rabbits. I guess quail could be lumped into your fowl category. I mean, I have a buddy that raises pheasants, so we're just going to stop with the most common there and not get excessive. Kind of like not getting into cats and dogs and going nuts in the farmed animals category. All right, let's close out natural predators. So this is going to make for a short session tonight. I guess let's break out and play with some D20 questions. I've been answering typically three of these a session, but we're running out of questions. So I'm going to have to generate some more questions. But tonight, I think we're only going to try to answer 2, because we're better than halfway through this table. And we've already answered 12. And 19. And 7. I could roll dice all evening. 19 again. This is why my players hate my dice. How do people travel long distances in this world? Okay. So, your most common is going to be horseback, provided I can spell it, for overland. Ship by sea. And I think in some limited mountain areas, we're going to do some airships. And this is going to border air elemental territory. So it's not going to be like you're going to cross the planet in an airship. You're going to be hopping mountains in airships, short distances. Okay. So we struck number 11 from the roster. 18. Have we answered 18? How do the skies of this world look different from the sky we know? It pretty much doesn't. Pretty much doesn't. In terms of color, however, we do have 2 moons. Because why not? 1 moon is boring. Let's do 2 moons with different tidal effects. So there you go. We're going to look up in the sky and see 2 moons. So number 18, we're going to strike through. Something to think about. All right. Sci-fi worlds. We want to do 2 questions tonight for that. Wow, I can't type. D20. D290. Alright, question 12 has already been answered in the sci-fi arena. Question 20. Question 3. 17. Lord have mercy. 4. If this is in our future, what struggles have followed us from now to then? Okay. Artificial social classes based on wealth. Social structures, I guess we could call it. And your typical war, disease, and famine. Most of which is triggered by greed, stupidity, or limited access to resources. Well, that makes the sci-fi world suckage. What valuable things do powerful people invest their resources in acquiring? Question number 10. It just kind of fell off that cliff of question number 4, didn't it? I mean, think about it in terms of our world. It's land, resources, especially areas that are especially resource laden areas. Let's see. What else do people invest in? I mean, if you think about it, food, shelter, clothing. It's typically your big 3, right? Food, shelter, clothing. Because everybody needs these 3 things. And I mean, clean water, put that up there with food. Clean water. Let's go ahead and list that, because that could be an issue. But those are kind of the big 3 that I would see being played out. Let's revisit natural resources discussion. This, we were looking at valuables from the perspective of metals, golds, gemstones, but water. I listed water here because I was thinking in terms of our desolated subcontinent to the southeast. So that's definitely going to be a resource. And then in terms of the other, I mean, it's going to depend. You want to build something out of stone, you got to have a quarry nearby. If you're going to have a quarry, you've got to be probably in a mountain setting. So things of that nature. Whereas in an area that is stone poor but timber rich, a lot of your building materials are obviously going to be based on lumber. So coming back to that conversation, building materials. Will be timber, stone, clay. This is going to be varies. And then value is going to be low to medium. Dependent upon availability. So geographic availability. And this is going to be mainly your construction materials. Obviously, if you have a source of these three, that's going to predominantly drive your construction, your building materials. And that kind of comes back into the conversation of resources and getting into the conversation of food and farmed animals. I like this in the conversation of foods, traditions and superstitions. I think that needs to be written in. Superstitions. Spell it right. To be explored. So let's go put that on my to-do list. Both of those, actually. Actually, all three. Let's go grab the to-do list. And this is going to be, how do I want to word this? Expand traditions and customs. There we go. Sorry, my face is itching. So that gives us some things I need to put on my to-do list. So the other thing I want to do is specialty foods. Come up with something unique. You know, in Chalt they have Tej, which is a honey-based alcoholic beverage. So what are we going to brew up? What geographically and tradition custom. So that's going to kind of fold into number 6. We'll put that on my to-do list for a future episode. Oh, where'd the music go? Did it die? Let's change the music then. Okay, we can do that. Okay, farmed animals. I think we covered a lot of those. We probably need to lump cattle and define it. is cow, oxen, bison, moose. Would you consider a llama or a camel to be considered cattle? Inquiring minds want to know. Emus? Or would that be a fowl? And I realize I'm probably using broad strokes to define cattle, because most people, especially here in Texas, I'm probably offending a whole swath of the state of Texas right now. When you say cattle, it's a type of cow, I would imagine, versus I'm lumping anything with 4 legs and hooves of some sort into that category. But you know what? I didn't take any ag classes, so we can just pardon my ignorance, right? Because back in the day when I was in school, it wasn't a mandated requirement. Back in the day, Pepperidge Farms remembers. I'm at the age I can get away with saying crap like that, so. But I try not to be offensive, so. Alright, I think I have about exhausted the thought process for food and farmed animals. I might brainstorm some on the farmed animal portion of this and try to come up with some more. Let's go ahead and air date this. 2024-02-14. Wonderful topic for Valentine's Day, right? But, you know, I know this is some dry content here, but, you know, if players ask questions, as a DM, you kind of got to have answers, or you get to play the improv role. And I love improving adventures, but I don't like improving the world environment. So spending time doing world building, sometimes you got to have some dry content to put together. So, but as always, you know, getting ready to wrap up this evening. Want to thank you for tuning in. As always, hit that follow button if you like what you see. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live, and that way you'll get a notification. Upcoming schedule: Saturday is kind of up in the air. This would be our normal D&D session, but I've got a fairly serious family function to attend that day. And so I don't know what if we're going to stream, and if we're streaming, when. It would be probably later than the typical 6 p.m. start time we've been doing on game sessions, or 7:30 start time on non-game sessions. So it might be a little world building, or it might be a late game. I've kind of got to concrete that in a little bit more, but not quite there yet. But that will get posted to our website calendar of events, as well as to the Twitch schedule, probably in the next day or so. Yeah, I would say by midday Friday I'll have some kind of concrete idea of scheduling for Saturday's stream. So, again, thanks for joining in tonight. Happy Valentine's Day for those of you who celebrate it. And, well, if you don't, either way, have a great evening.